Well, the next session, and is the last one, is the one that is dedicated to the industry and its relation to BIM. And it will be conducted by Ricardo García Moreno. Él tiene más de 20 años de experiencia en la implementación de la cultura.
He has over 20 years of experience implementing the Lean, L-E-A-N. And when we were thinking about who was going to moderate this session, we decided that he belonged to one of the most advanced sectors in terms of innovation. And we were thinking about automotive industry. Since 2007, he has been worked in this sector. He started in Renault Consulting Spain, and he is the head of training and consultancy division. Renault is a renowned automotive company, and they also have some construction and building division. He's also certified senior instructor, so remarking certified, in the Renault production system and alliance production way. And that's a way of making all providers more collaborative in the process when building something. That's the result of the consortium Renault and Nissan. And from the European BIM Summit, we were eager to have some kind of contact to the automotive industry to see what they can bring to the building industry. Please allow me 2 minutes. One of the workshops has been cancelled, the last one. 25 of you had already signed up for the workshop. So it was the workshop in room 4 from 6 to 7 p.m. And we would really appreciate if you could change your workshop. Remember again the hashtag, which is BIM Summit 16. Ricardo, you have now the floor.
Hola, buenos días a todos.
Hi everybody and good morning.
Voy a hablar en inglés.
I am going to speak in English because to avoid the delays or waste. So I am going to present directly in English.
First of all, I want to introduce very briefly my company. In fact, Renault Consulting is an in-house consulting that belongs 100% to the alliance, Renault-Nissan. And we deploy Lean worldwide to make our own processes more efficient, but also for Nissan, for Renault, for Dacia, for Samsung Motors. So we have experience, a lot of experience related to this kind of implementations. And now we are applying this also in many other sectors, aeronautic sectors, water cleaning, services, these things. In terms of BIM, we are quite new to BIM, but according to what we have learned these 2 days here with you, we've seen many synergies that we can apply from design, construction processes, that have a lot of waste, obviously, and also these collaborative environments you want to develop with your providers, because the automotive industry has a lot of experience also deploying this kind of programs to increase the efficiency of the whole supply chain, right? So there are many synergies you can apply also in your sector. So now we understand a little bit better why we were invited to come here. It was not a mistake. It was a wrong summit, so it was the right one. Okay, so now here I'm in charge of introducing yourself to some speakers. I had a look to the presentations, and they were very interesting. So I think you will have a very good opportunity to understand very many things, very interesting things concerning BIM. The first one to speak will be Miguel Ángel. Miguel Ángel Eras, that is the Marketing Communication Director from Roca Group, and is one of the people that is leading the digital transformation within Roca. He's going to talk about the digital revolution. The second one to talk, I want to introduce them just at once to avoid this flow interruption, so it will be a lean slot directly. The second one will be Mr. Wasserman, Uwe Wasserman, I think that's right, the pronunciation. Okay. So this is Director of the Architecture, Engineering and Construction in Autodesk. That is a world leader in design software 3D for many applications. She's going to talk about BIM today and the transition to the era of connection. The third one will be Mr. Hamill, Stephen Hamill, that is the Director of Design and Innovation from Riva Enterprises. He's an expert in national building specifications, and his speech will be responding to the UK government strategy. Then we'll have an intervention from José Cosculluela, this Director of Construsoft. He's an expert in the implementation of Lean in many countries, and he will do a short foreword for the last presentation. It's a presentation where we will have two speakers. That will be Ignacy Salvador and Thomas Eriksson. They are from Celsa Group. It's a steel maker. He will explain this better than me later. Ignacy Salvador is the Business Development Manager in Europe. And Thomas Eriksson is a Technical Development Manager at Celsa Steel Service. And they will provide us with a very nice presentation concerning managing the reinforcement process effectively with BIM tools. And this is focused on efficiency, so it will be also very interesting. So as we don't have too much time, I will release a question in the air just to have in mind during the presentations, so we can maybe think a little bit about this. That is, for you, which is the most challenging issue concerning efficiency in your sector today? Is this a design problem? Is this a construction efficiency problem? Or is this a supplier development efficiency problem? Okay, so first one, please. Miguel Ángel.
Hello. Here we are. Yes. Hello. Thank you all for being here. Well, as you can see, I'm responsible for marketing communications at Roca Group, and well, I'm one of the people in charge of leading this digital transformation in our industry, in our company, at least. And well, we like to start with this sentence, always with this quote. It doesn't really have someone behind. It's some common agreement between historians nowadays, which is that the digital revolution is only comparable to the industrial revolution. And yeah, it's just a nice quote, but it's not only a nice quote. I mean, this is real, and this is, as I said, common agreement between historians worldwide. We are living in a revolutionary period. The situation that we are facing these years, it's only comparable to those that were living during the Industrial Revolution. It's a change that it's affecting everything, mainly the productive systems and the information transfer systems. And when there are changes in these two areas, all the social model is really changing as well. You know, so just to bear in mind that it's a big thing. And well, for the industry, we are talking about BIM and industry. it's a major change. The Industrial Revolution, of course, was a huge change for the industry. It was indeed the born of the industry as we know it. So it was a huge change in the social model. People stopped hand-making things, and there started to appear factories and cities next to the factories. So it really changed the way people lived. Now with the digital revolution, it's a little bit the same. And how is this affecting our industry? Well, at Roca Group, we are one of the main companies in the bathroom manufacturing industry. We are manufacturing these nice wash basins, furniture, toilets, all these kind of things. So you may say, yeah, digital revolution up here. I don't know to which extent this is going really to become a digital thing. But the truth is that it is really affecting. And of course, this is a joke that has gone viral in social media in the last years. But it's not only something to laugh, it's the truth. I mean, this is happening, and we are considering these kind of things in our industry. I mean, people are no longer just going to the toilet to do what they normally do in the toilet. They can even spend infinite time if they have a plug and Wi-Fi. So really, things are also changing even in the bathroom industry. But, well, this is probably not a big change. In other sectors, we know that there have been more significant changes. How many times is it since you last used one of these? If you ever use them, young people like me, use them not that frequently, because we got this already. So why did we need a camera roll? We already had this. But how long is it since you last used one of these? Probably because you got one of these. But do you still have one of these? Some of you probably, but the majority of you already have something like this. So you can see that in maybe 20 years' time, there have been 3 business models and 3 industries and 3 leading brands. I don't know if you have seen the logos, but we are talking about Kodak, Leica, Nokia, 3 leading huge companies and brands that have faced the challenge to reinvent themselves. And some of them have not succeeded. So we are also looking how is this going to affect the bathroom industry. And, well, the good thing is that we can learn. The bathroom industry, it's not the fastest one, it's not the most revolutionary one, probably. So we can learn from what is happening in other industries. And, well, coming to the bathroom, I'm not going to explain you all the changes that we are facing, but one of them, which is the significant one for the audience here today, it's BIM. And BIM is really changing the way we are doing business. In normal business, in the non-digital world, our purpose was to sell toilets and sell wash basins and sell faucets and sell furniture. So a good way to do that was to make them be specified in projects. So we had a huge team of specifiers moving around, contacting architects and so on to try them to specify our products in their projects. With BIM, this has completely changed. And it will be changing. You have heard a lot during these days of the whole process and how it will become a huge thing in the end when everybody in the workflow in this chain is working with BIM. So, well, in 2013, we started to do work on our BIM project in-house for the Roca Group. And, well, we learned a lot of things and we got to one conclusion, which is if I wanted you to specify my toilets or my faucets or my furniture, now I want you to put my objects in your projects. As easy as this. So we investigated a lot on how was the best way to supply our objects so that the market will use them. And yeah, we think we got the right choice, and I'm going to explain you just the 3 key issues that we consider as manufacturers that are really essential in order to have this success in the BIM world. The first one is single sourcing. I mean, why are you going to use one of our objects when you can use just a template object or a sample or whatever? I mean, there's a very significant thing with single sourcing. If you are using one of our objects, in our case with Roca Group, because we are doing things right, probably in other companies it's different, but in our case, our objects are single sourced. They are only in one place. So whenever you are using them in your projects, you are still connected to the source object. That way, whenever this product is discontinued or redesigned, or even if it has a mistake in the metadata or in the 3D object, whatever, you can get automatically this object updated in your projects. And this is a huge thing. I mean, you don't need to worry about if a product is discontinued or if there is something wrong. You will always get notified and you will have the chance to automatically update this object in all the projects where you are using it. So this is a very significant thing to take into account for manufacturers. The second one, it's liability. And this is also a bit dangerous for us, but we have to face it. When you are using our objects, we are kind of signing a contract with you. It's like, yeah, the information that we are providing here, it's right. And if you develop a project based on this information, you will be able to build it right. So manufacturers like us really care about liability. And here you have a list of all the checkups that we do whenever we publish an object. Probably we are not the company yet with more objects online. We only have 150, but we already have 1,500 objects in the validation process. And we are really taking a long time to validate them properly so that we don't have these liability issues, so that you can trust our objects really, and you can use them knowing that you're going to be okay during the whole process. And last but not least is bidirectionality. One of the main things of this digital revolution is that things are becoming bidirectional. It's no longer that communication is just a speak person saying something to an audience. I mean, the audience can interact and come back to you with comments, with highlighting something that might be wrong or whatever. And in the way we are developing the objects in our collaboration with bimobject.com, you already have all these tools so that you can come back to us, that you can ask us questions, that you can say, okay, I'm putting this toilet in this project, but this project is for Malaysia. Is it suiting the norms and regulations in there? Or you can even share the bathroom of your project with us and we can review it together. And it's not like just calling the Roca offices worldwide, 22,000 employees, and saying, hey, does anybody know here something about BIM? No. Through these kind of tools, you get direct interaction with people who are specialists on this, and that can really help you with whatever doubt, question, or request you may have. So this is it. These are the three topics that we consider essential in terms of manufacturers and how we can really help this BIM industry by considering all these three issues so that at the end of the day, your objects are our objects. So we really encourage you all to use original objects from manufacturers, and especially from those manufacturers who are really taking care about all these things, and mainly these three topics. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this presentation. So my name is Uwe Wassermann, responsible for the AEC Business Development and Enterprise Marketing at Autodesk. So with my worldwide team, we are looking into industry trends in different countries and regions, and we are focusing on accelerating business in segments. We are transforming our business into new models with pilot projects, and most importantly, we're looking into opportunities for us and also for our customers. So what I want to do today is not working. Okay. Give you some insight in my experience and my work. So looking into some industry challenges and drivers, some real projects, how BIM is used, some trends and return on investment, and most importantly, where we are moving in the future. So when we are looking into all these challenges around the world and we consolidate it a little bit, we come to, let's say, these kind of drivers and trends that we see our industry moving forward. So, of course, you heard a lot about government and owner mandates. You heard a lot about productivity in construction in comparison with the manufacturing. You heard a lot, and you know a lot about sustainability requirements that we need to meet. Prefabrication and pre-assembly is a big driver. And, of course, global teams working together interdisciplinary around the globe. Cloud computing in different aspects like computing power, access to tools, access to information, and then mobile computing with all the social aspects, access with any kind of device to any kind of information at any time, right? And then the most recent trend around Internet of Things, the merge between the digital and the physical world. And of course, we are looking to the total cost of ownership, so we want to optimize this. So BIM is somehow in the center of all of this. And of course, BIM cannot solve all these problems. But what BIM can do is contribute to the solving of these problems. But we need to understand what BIM is not able to do. And BIM is not able to cure poor project management. And those companies who try to use BIM to just create 2D drawings as they did before, they will fail. Because BIM is something different. BIM is a real 3D, 4D, 5D, and if you will, 6 and 7D modeling environment. BIM is an intelligent digital model with the data behind it. And of course, BIM also covers the analysis and simulation part for the full life cycle. So BIM is a verb, it's something active. And of course, BIM is a process. BIM is not a software. Software is just enabling the BIM process. And most importantly, BIM is a strategy. And those companies understand that it's a strategy and it's a very conscious decision to implement BIM, and there's some change management comes with it, they will be also successful. So when we talk about BIM, we talk about the full life cycle. We don't talk only about parts of it. We talk about preliminary design, analysis, still talk about documentation. Maybe in 10 years we will build from the model directly, but currently we need to talk about documentation and on all the 4D, 5D logistics aspects and construction until renovation and retrofit. But let's talk a little bit about projects. And I mean these kind of iconic projects. Lighthouse project, everybody knows, and when you see this twisted form, I mean, the architect wanted to symbolize the dynamic of the Chinese economy with this twisted form, but the engineer, the form comes from the engineering side, with computational fluid dynamics. The engineer was able, based on a BIM model, to reduce the wind load of this building by 24%, which resulted in a 50 million savings for the owner for the material alone. When you look to other projects like this, because BIM is used for single and multifamily houses exactly as it is used for renovation project with organic forms for the modeling, but also for the analysis part. When you look to these kind of examples, MEP or HVAC examples, high density, not only the clash detection aspect is important, but also to optimize alternatives for optimizing the energy consumption and the energy production. Or from the structural engineering field, this is a steel building, and you can have steel or you can have reinforced concrete examples, but also here constructability elements and analysis have been very important in such projects. And when it comes to analysis and simulation, it's very important that meanwhile these tools are integrated into the whole BIM process. So we can enable today our customers to directly access these tools from the BIM model and through the cloud. So there's no upfront payment, you just pay for usage of this. And this enables us to optimize our design substantially. But not only greenfield projects, new projects. I mean, in many countries around the world, we have 50 to 60% of the projects and construction output is for renovation and retrofit. And so capturing existing conditions is a very important point. So a lot has been done here, and this is the example of Fukushima. So nuclear power plant was captured, and then prefabricated elements have been brought to the building site to reduce the time of human beings on the site. And I mean, these point clouds, meanwhile, the cost to produce this is gone down dramatically. The quality is gone up dramatically. This is Denver Airport, 2.5 billion points, and you can handle it on a laptop. It's unbelievable. So a lot is going on, and especially also the prefabrication and pre-assembly process. Look at this example. I mean, sustainability project in New York City. The Stack is a 7-story apartment house, and prefabrication does not automatically mean bad architecture. I mean, when you look to the end result, it's a pretty nice building. And just 9 blocks behind the Stack in New York, you see this project. And this is just currently underway. It's a 32-story apartment house. And the owner did not disclose the savings, but he built a production plant on site to save money for the prefabrication of these modules that stick together at the end. But we also have examples from the infrastructure. This is a bridge with 150 elements, spans, modeled in Revit. But more importantly, the reinforcement, high-density complex reinforcement, had to be coordinated with the PT strands inside. And the schedule has been able to be reduced a lot on the building side. And I think you know about these kind of things. Prefabricated elements, you saw this already in presentations yesterday, 30-story hotel in 15 days. But it's not only the prefabrication digitalization process, it's also about lean management, of course, and optimizing of logistics, but also based on digital processes like BIM. And it's not only about building. I mean, a lot of people think building information modeling only in terms of building. A lot is happening in the infrastructure sector, and there's the opportunity is huge. And you look on the left side, on the upper left side, you can see a consolidated model consisting of GIS data, point clouds, vector data, and building models. And left side down, you can see a preliminary design example with the street and the bridge. It's not only the design, it's also the analysis where the pillars stand and what direction they have, so that you already in this stage can be sure that it is feasible what you design. And the right upper corner, you can see a point cloud city model combined with building information model for augmented reality. You can look into the pipes under the street, and on the on the right side down, you can see the city model of Tokyo, for example, looking to a project in context. This is the main station, looking to the context, looking to analysis around traffic, infrastructure, around airflow, around shadowing and stuff like that. So it's a lot what we see, and a lot of use cases, and I can go forever, of course, with that. So thousands and thousands of BIM projects are on the way today worldwide. The point is the distribution is not equal. So we see adoption rates different around the world. When you look to the US, or when you look to Singapore, for example, or to Australia, we have high adoption rate of BIM. But still, I mean, we see a lot of adoption growing also in EMEA, in Europe, for sure with the Nordic countries and especially also the UK leading the way. And you see all these green bubbles, all initiatives or mandates from private or public owners or governments that help to drive this democratization of BIM. And of course, we heard yesterday about France initiatives and also today, and about German initiatives with Plan and Bauen 4.0, and also Catalonia and Spanish initiatives with the ESBIM, with the INECO, with the ITAC, and all these work groups helping really to define some specifications and rules to implement BIM. But it is, and I think this is a very important point and experience I have, in every country, in Spain, in Germany, in France, and everywhere, you find companies, and we have some of them here, like Bouygues and others, just because I see Pierre. I mean, they are heavily using BIM, and they are really deeply using the digital methodologies there. And so it's an entrepreneurial decision of every company to do it and to influence the ecosystem. So when you ask these companies, once they have used BIM, and this is a McGraw-Hill study, it's very amazing when you look to 77% of the companies say, I had a personal gain in productivity, not looking left and not looking right. It's just my personal gain of productivity. When you ask owners, 100% of owners say better project outcome and a better multi-party communication because they have been involved in the process. And of course, there are lots of other aspects. I think that just one of them is construction companies. They see in BIM a better opportunity to look to alternative production models and production models like prefabrication. So this is a study from an MEP contractor. He just looked into the contract volume. When he started with 2D projects, I mean, I think it was AutoCAD, 18% of the contract volume was put aside for change orders, then using BIM just in the office, 11%, and then using BIM in the bigger context with the ecosystem, less than 3% of the volume had to be put aside for change orders. So this means companies are heavily investing in BIM, but as we know from these statistics that in construction we are kind of underinvested, especially compared to manufacturing where we see the percentage of spend compared to the industry output. So there's a lot of potential there. And when you look on the other side, and I think it's important for us as a software company, looking into projections about where will the investment go. And this is a Pike research looking into different industries where the investment will be. So today we have around 3 billion investment worldwide around BIM solutions and services. And in just 5 years, we have more than 6. So for us as a software developer, this means we heavily invest in the future. We heavily invest in products of today, but also invest in things to move into the next era, which is the era of connection. And this is, I want to close with that one. And I think we all know that, and I think my colleague before also mentioned it, the revolution part. I mean, technology innovation ever has, since decades, revolutionized the way we design and construction produce. And so today, with the explosion of the digital context information flow, so what we understand, design and production, not only in construction or AEC, but everywhere, is really changing. So, I mean, look to these examples. I mean, starting from thermostats that kind of control temperature and automatically optimize it to this prefabricated stuff. So every picture here on the screen kind of symbolizes a way of a little disruption, which kind of we use in everyday life. For AEC, we see these 3 big areas. And I think yesterday a colleague of mine already talked about it. So the means of production will change on the physical and also on the intellectual part, how we design and how we build. Also, the demand will change. The owners are more informed, so the owner will require things that they didn't require before. When you think about a building that learns the occupant needs, that can react on changing conditions, like temperature, like lighting, security, or any kind of interactive mechanism, and based on gestures, based on movement, or based on voice recognition. So it's really a different situation where connectivity between systems will change the world. And on the product side, with the merge of digital and physical world, these product get much more intelligent. And when you think about in 2020, we will have 50 million sensors connected to the internet. That's a different world. So what does it mean for us? It means that in the future, and the future is not so far away, in the future, decisions in the AEC space will not longer be made in silos. So we will better understand, in silos with limited insight into all aspects like social environmental and economical aspects. So this will mean that the elements or the building itself, they will create streams of data, and the objects that carry these data will be able to analyze the interdependency of each other, and so create connected systems of insight for us. What does it mean for all the stakeholders? We will better understand the spaces and the structures as a system. And what is more important, every decision that we make and every stakeholder in the process makes will have a bigger impact as all these things are interconnected. What is important here is we cannot accept that we have limited insight in the projects. So what we need to do to get in this area of connection is we need to improve our collaboration. So this is the next big thing that we need to do. Collaboration is not only sharing files, it's sharing data. In a design process, it means that we need to enable somehow concurrent engineering. In the later stage, we need to make sure that the data is consistent. The builder, the contractor builds from the plan, the latest version of a plan that the architect or the engineer has done. The project end-off is not only the design model, it's the as-built model, and furthermore, we need to add information for an as-maintained model for the owner that he can really work with this model in the maintenance and operation phase. And the contract implications, of course, for all the parties that do not really understand modern collaboration technologies, they will have big concerns around collaboration. So we need to work on that. So assuming that all the stakeholders would be willing to collaborate and contractually also motivated to collaborate, we from the software side, we need to enable them from an IT perspective in two ways. This is, one way is exchange formats and support of exchange formats, and the other one is a collaboration platform. Let's talk about the exchange formats. I mean, this is an important thing. We are talking a lot about different formats, and we'll talk a lot about IFC. And so we from Autodesk, we invest heavily in interoperability, and especially we focus on IFC for all the projects that we need to leave a homogeneous area. A lot of projects have different tools, so IFC for us is the most important thing, but IFC does not cover everything. So when you look on the top, it's just some of the AEC products, and on the left side, you find the different formats. This is the reality. So we need to invest heavily in all these different formats to enable our customers to exchange information. And it would be much more easier for us and much more easier for our customers if, for example, IFC, and this is our big wish, would extend the capabilities, right? Especially, for example, in the infrastructure space. I mean, we are in a good way, but I just want to make you aware of this. So the other thing, and independently of information quality, independently of the exchange format you have 2D projects, you have 3D projects, you have real BIM project with semantic information behind, you have photos, you have contracts, you have everything. So what you need to do in collaboration, enable every kind of information to be shared. So this is the concept. We call it BIM 360. Other companies may call it differently. With the project in the center, with all participants in the project being able to upload and share information based on their access rights, which means enabling anytime, anywhere access to any kind of information. And my last slide just shows a little picture where all these stakeholders are working together and uploading and accessing the data in the internet in the so-called single source of truth that we think is an important component. Thank you very much.
Hi there, my name is Stephen Hamill, and I'm Director of Design and Innovation at NBS, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how in the UK we're responding to the UK government's BIM strategy. So we'll have a few slides just reflecting back, looking at the UK government's BIM strategy. Then talk a little bit about how our organisation has worked with government to help define Level 2 BIM, and how we're providing more support in the UK to industry. So a little bit about the organisation I work for. I work for NBS in the UK, and that's wholly owned by the Royal Institute of British Architects. So all of the money we make goes back into the industry and supports architecture in the UK and UK architecture abroad. NBS is best known for its specification products. So what you can see on the screen there is one of our specification products, where a specifier is specifying a natural stone block with technical guidance and manufacturer's information to the side of the screen. So we heard from Mark Bew yesterday and Adam Matthews about how in the UK in 2011, the UK government mandated BIM. Why did they do that? They did that because they had 4 very clear objectives. The first 2 objectives there are around efficiencies, doing things faster for cheaper, whether that's in construction or the asset management of the built environment. So that's across buildings and infrastructure. And as you heard from Adam yesterday, I think every government has a real responsibility to the taxpayer that when they are spending money on construction and managing built assets, that they do that as efficiently as possible. And they believe that BIM can help achieve those first 2 objectives. The third objective is around sustainability, lower emissions. If you can digitally structure information so you can make the right decisions at the right time, then you can make the right decisions in terms of sustainability in the environment. And the 4th objective is to upskill the UK industry so that we can export professional services abroad and the manufacturer community can export UK products overseas. Now, when mandating BIM, what's vital is to say what BIM is. And everybody has a different definition of BIM, but from the UK government's point of view, in terms of being the biggest client in the UK, it's defined by the following standards and tools. Now, the bottom 2 there, a common unified classification and a digital plan of work system, is where our organisation, NBS, worked for 6 months last year in helping defining this in terms of that government Level 2 BIM package. So how did we do that? We developed a tool called the BIM Toolkit. As a client, it was the government. As a project team, it was led by ourselves at NBS, but we worked with some real expert partners, the likes of BDP, Lang O'Rourke, Mott MacDonald, Microsoft, BIM Academy, the UK BIM Academy, and Newcastle University. And we also had the support in terms of a monthly steering group from the major construction institutions in the UK. What's live now, you can go and check it on your iPhones or iPads, or when you get back to your office, is a completely free-to-use website, BIM Toolkit, and that guides the user through working to Level 2 BIM in the UK. One of the very first things that was done was to unify the stages of a construction project. So whether it's a building project, a water project, waste, transport, we now have 8 stages, 8 big milestone deliverables in the UK, from strategy to brief through the design stages, construction, handover, and then finally in use. And what you can do with the digital tool, when putting together your digital plan of work on a BIM project, is to define the deliverables at each stage. And they don't always have to be deliverables in terms of 3D models, but they can be digital deliverables like Word documents, presentations, packs of photographs. But the important thing is what is required at each stage is defined. That's referred back to the client requirements, what we call the plain language question. And that's assigned to a particular role at a particular stage. So there's real clarity for the project team in terms of who was doing what and when, in terms of their schedule of services around digital deliverables to meet the client requirements. Some of those digital deliverables will be related to the 3D model, so digital objects that are getting designed which represent elements of the built asset. And that's where we've developed our own levels of definition guides. We split those into levels of detail, which covers geometry, and levels of information, which covers the information associated with the geometry. That could be in a linked specification, or could be part of the attributes of the BIM object themselves. And they have bandings which are sort of indicative of the typical stage. They don't have to be aligned to that stage. You can have a variation. So you could have a level of detail 4 at stage 3 of a project, or you could have a level of detail 2 but level of information 5. But they have clear bandings for 5,700 objects across building and infrastructure. So on the left-hand side there, you can see bandings for a door, and bandings for a heating system. And for a door at an early stage, you may just want to know there's a door between 2 spaces. But when it comes to the construction detail, you may want to know the undercut for the carpet underneath the door, whether there's vision panels, whether there's kick plates. If you look at the bandings on the information side, you can imagine maybe a partition system or a ceiling. The first banding is just a rough description. The second banding looks at the overall performance in terms of acoustic, fire, environmental performance. And then it goes into the individual products until maybe a manufacturer's products named, like a British gypsum plasterboard. And then finally the handover information. What is the warranty? What is the expected life? What is the replacement cost? So real clarity there on geometric information and also the associated technical details. And they can be put together as part of the digital plan of work tool that's there available for free online to produce a full digital plan of work outlining who needs to do what and when as the project progresses. Another deliverable as part of the toolkit project was a unified classification system, again to go across infrastructure and buildings. This classification structure is based on the ISO 12006 standard, which talks about standardized tables going from all scale of construction objects. So from the largest scale, you could think of complexes, things like a railway complex or a highway complex or a holiday village complex. And then you get smaller tables for the smaller objects, things like the entities, like a tunnel, a bridge, a building, activities, spaces and locations, elements, until ultimately you get down to the systems and products, an intruder detection system and a bullet camera product, or a ceiling system and a ceiling tile product. And again, this classification system is now published. It's free to use digitally online and can be accessed from the Toolkit website. So in addition to helping the UK government define that level 2 set of standards and tools, as an organisation, we've also been adapting to provide additional tools that help UK in their transition from working with paper documents to working with digital information. And what I've heard from a number of presentations over the last 2 days is the need for standardized objects and the need for a sort of standard process. So when the team comes together, they can all work to the same standards and process. And equally, every single organisation is not having to create their own rules. So one development we did at NBS was called the National BIM Library. And this is a free-to-use set of objects that any architects, engineers, clients or contractors can come to and download high-quality BIM objects for free. One of the unique things about the National BIM Library is the fact that every single object on there is to that NBS BIM object standard. And what we did when we started out with the National BIM Library is look at all of the international standards, COBE, IFC, look at the British standards, the BS 8541 series on modelling, and we've pulled that all together, added a little bit ourselves and added technical guidance, and made sure that all of the objects we put on the National BIM Library are to this particular standard. So if we look at a typical object here, here's a Sika Sarnafil green roof. I think Sika are one of the sponsors from the conference today. You can see that there's a number of different proprietary formats there at the bottom, like so Bentley, Graphisoft. But the one thing that every single object has is an IFC equivalent. So you can click on that little button there and download the IFC object, but we also expose the information that's standardized in every single format. So here for the Sika roof, you can see what IFC class it is, what IFC subclass, and all of the IFC property sets on things like fire, acoustic, all the sort of performance ratings. With the proprietary objects, we also have plugins for some of the various BIM tools out there. And we support the workflow from starting with not very much information, going through to detailed information. So what you can see there is a design at an early stage, where you're maybe just wanting to put the building's form together and think of space usage. You can download generic objects without any manufacturer named. So there's a concept wall, and start to put the design together. As the project develops, you can see we have more generic objects. So in this case, there's different wall constructions, which are typical for UK construction. And you can drag and drop those into the design to do things like maybe material takeoff, develop design stage, or look at things like fire strategy drawings. So in this case, you have different colours, depending on the fire ratings inside these standardised walls. And then ultimately, the digital model should represent the physical model, and manufacturer objects will drop in. So in this situation here, the designer's designing the washroom, and you can see that we have some of the manufacturers that serve the UK industry, and RIBA architects, engineers in the UK can just grab these objects for free and drop manufacturer objects in again. But throughout every single stage of that process, they're all with the standardized information sets inside there. Completely free for industry. Manufacturers pay a small amount to be positioned inside the BIM library. So I could talk for longer, but I just wanted to touch on 2 or 3 of the main developments. But what you can see now in terms of that whole interconnected environment is you have the BIM toolkit allowing UK construction teams to operate at level 2 BIM, which has classification, project management, digital plan of work. You can put your geometric design together using National BIM Library for free. And then we have premium tools as well, like our specification tools, our standards and regulations tools. And then all of those linking together to give a fantastic user experience to the construction professionals that really focuses on the information, coordinated project information being the priority. Technology always arrives, but if you focus on the information and the process, you can have a really fantastic, package there, which I think is something that we're very close to now. So just in summary, I think the UK government has done some very good stuff, and around the world people are looking and saying, what is the UK strategy? How do they define level 2 BIM? What are the benefits that they believe this will achieve? And having that clear top-down strategy, I think, is so vital for a nation when it comes to BIM adoption. And then finally, it's not just a case of the direction that comes from the top, but how the industry itself then reacts to what the government asks for and supports in that transition. It can't all be government. It has to be that mix between what the government says top down and then from the bottom up, how the industry reacts and what you get in the competitive market. So thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, it's not easy to talk now because we're almost there. We're hungry, right? So please keep up. I hope you will find something interesting here. We are trying to give you here our view from the industry, so from a supplier within the whole value chain. Okay, we've talked about BIM in the design stage, and we have also talked about how to manage information at site. But when we get into the industry, it's also important to see what is the effect for us, okay? Well, first of all, Celsa Group, most of you might know us, others don't, so I will just spend 2 slides. What do? We are on the steel industry, and we are taking scrap, as you can see here, and we transform that through electrical furnaces into beams, rebar, and any long steel product. Okay, so that's what we do. And specifically for the BIM, we have downstream operation companies in different countries, in 6 countries right now: Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, UK, and Spain. We provide products, so as you can see here, the rebar. We provide also solutions, so prefabricated elements built with this kind of material. And we also provide services around the steel. So that might be related to BIM, might be 3D modeling. It might be also things at site, fixing, going to site and actually installing the products at site. Okay, so why are we interested in BIM? Well, for us, BIM is a tool to enable the lean construction process. So we firmly believe that it's time for the construction industry to actually move forward. We've seen that, and we have heard that during these days a lot of times. But it's clear. I mean, we are building the same way we were doing 100 years ago, basically. It's not been a huge change. And it's time to move, right? So we see BIM as a tool to allow us to move and enable all the processes to happen. Okay? On the other hand, the projects are getting customized. So it's not longer that we are building houses and everybody's living on the same kind of houses. Now we all want to have our particular thing, right? And if we link lean and we link customization, and then we need to industrialize that, well, of course, the information flow, it's key, because otherwise we will not be able to deliver the products customized that our customers will want at the time that they need it. And finally, the world is open today. We are not longer small companies or large corporations working on our environment. We need to collaborate. And I cannot stress that more. We need to collaborate and collaborate. There's no other way. Otherwise, we will not move forward. Okay, so we see BIM should be able to cover these 3 aspects. So we will tell you today, and that's why we have here Thomas Eriksson from Celsa in Sweden. We'll explain you our Swedish story, so you can see what we have done there. And just, well, this is a vegetable wrench, which is actually a Swedish invention. So this is the tool that we'll show you. Okay?
But this was not the... Is the mic on? Yeah? Okay. This was not what we built this time in Sweden. I will try to, first of all, explain why many people consider reinforcement important in construction projects, especially heavy infrastructure projects. The reinforcement stands for about 20% of the total cost in a project, or the total cost of activities related to reinforcement is 20% in a heavy infrastructure project. Everything started when our president attended to a seminar. It was 6-7 years ago from now. And at that, a research study was presented that showed almost the same numbers as you have seen before, that about only 18% of the work time is spent on value-adding activities. So we got a huge amount of waste on the work site, and also room of improvement. And only 26% of all the documents were useful and very easy to absorb. So what Thule did, he went back home to the company. He informed us about the waste in the process, and he told me, you must validate this research and see if it's valid for the reinforcement process as well. And if it's valid, we should try to lower the total cost of the reinforcement process and reduce the amount of waste. And the reason why we do this is not because we're nice and help the industry. It's, of course, to be more competitive and develop our cooperation with our customers, who is the contractors. It was quite some heavy work. I spent about 6 months out on different work sites. I did some 40,000 measurements. One measurement was 1 note each minute when I was looking at individual reinforcement worker or the work site manager, what kind of work they were doing at that specific time. There were also quite some interviews to map the information flow within the construction process related to reinforcement. And the reality that I saw was not really matching the need that the people described out on the work site. Everyone was telling the same thing, that they more or less need the same information, but it should be delivered in a slightly different way at a different time. This is how the reinforcement process looks like. A bit better than the entire process, 32% spent on direct work activities. It's when you're fixing the rebars like this. And then the rest is different kind of waste or indirect work. When it comes to the information, I hope that this picture can explain a bit about the process. This is how it looked like. It was a huge mass of different documents. Often there were copies and copies and different versions of the same document containing reinforcement information. And as someone described it here, it was a fruit salad. It was BIM, it was not BIM, it was email, it was everything. And these guys were the guys I interviewed, or the different roles. The site manager, she needs to know when the transports are coming to the work site so she can inform the steel fixers to unload the truck. And the BIM coordinator needs to know the rebar schedules and the status of the design for the different bars and the different parts in the construction. So what we did, not the wrench, but a much more simpler thing, it was we placed all the critical reinforcement data in a cloud service. It got a web service and an open API so you can access all the reinforcement information you need. And some of the information which we have in the cloud accessible is statuses, rebar schedules, information about the transport, orders, contacts, documents, and also product libraries. And we got functions to validate the steel that's being designed in a project. So what we offer from the building material industry to the construction industry is an online reinforcement factory, more or less, which I hope people can integrate with and connect their tools to their internal tools. We have some integrations with Tekla and Autodesks, and there are some other local variants, impact reinforcement. But as I said, it's an open API, so you can access the cloud service and download and upload data. Statuses, I think, is the more important for the construction industry to work with. This database also got some user interfaces, different user interfaces for different people in the reinforcement process. Either you can access data and functions in this database through your mobile or through a desktop client or through a web client. You can replace your traditional data sources, upload information from Excel spreadsheets, or download data from the Tekla model and then upload new data to the model again with new added attributes. And we're quite happy, at least in Sweden, with how the market is being using this free service. We got some 600 registered users. If we reach about 3,000 users, I think this tool is a standard tool in the Nordic market. Today we have 2,800 registered projects within this database. and there is a lot of different functionalities added on top of this online database. We will present this at the workshop later today.
Yep. Finally, so now what should we do now? Right now working in Sweden, in Norway, in Finland, in Denmark. Now we are about to launch it in the UK, and in Spain is already the development almost finished. And we also want to allow that for the steel fixers to report something. So we think it should be all of us that, I mean, everybody who is in the process should be able to use these kind of tools. Other things we want to grow and have more functionalities into the tool. And for that, we are working heavily with the users to understand what they really need to make it work. Okay. And finally, interact with more platforms. I have heard a lot today about connection, and the good thing of this is that it's a web service and it's an open API. So that means that it's actually already, we believe it's already at the level 3 within the BIM, because it's actually it's able to interact with other tools automatically. Okay, if you do the proper connections, and it's online. What about the industry? Okay, we have our tool, but what about the rest? For us, it's a challenge, because these things make sense if we all jump into that. And the only thing that the industry will move is if all the parties involved are working there. So we are advocating for the benefits of the lean construction and the BIM as a tool to use it. We need to engage others, because we cannot do that alone, and we are hoping that there will be more actors within the industry that will come with tools like this. So actually it will make the whole sense for the industry to actually jump into that on real projects at site, working with these things. Okay? And finally, of course, we need to keep delivering the right products to the site and show at real sites, as we are doing, that this is working, and it's actually a good tool to allow everybody to be informed about what's going on the site, and then reduce, of course, the time and the money spent to deliver the project. So as Thomas said, for those who have not they cannot join that workshop, well, you might come to this one. Okay, we will just show the tool there and see how that is actually going from a model into the tool, going to the app, and how everything is done online with that. Okay, thank you very much.
Bueno, me dice Ignacio que vamos.
Well, apparently we are quite behind the schedule, so I would like to answer the question that I first launched before we started this session. What was the biggest challenge for your sector, in your opinion, in terms of efficiency? If it was design related, if it was construction related, this technical solution, or if it's to find something specific, or if it's related to our linking capacity to connect with our providers, and to make it efficient, to make this process efficient. That was my question, and I guess the answer is quite long. Maybe the speakers, someone volunteers to answer?
Is to actually understand that the only way things move is if we collaborate. And you know, I can see that, for example, on the technology, now it's clear that IFC is the way to go, more or less. People have understood that it's not that trying to keep your own solution, but that's not only required in the technology. It's required in the processes. So it needs to be that we all agree that if we want to do things better, we just need to share the information and to understand which is the best way to do it.
Sí. Muy rápidamente yo.
Very quickly, I really agree on that. You know the lean concept. I'm quite sure that many of you are familiar with that. And this has to do with the manager's ability at all levels to implement efficiency concepts at all organizational levels. And I think the challenge is in people, not in terms of standards or technical, but to convince people to go for it. So that will be it for this session. Thank you very much for your attention.